Hello and welcome to Get to Know Them podcast. This is a podcast in which I'm gonna talk with some of the world's highest performers in order to learn more about them. I'm your host, Tanja Spielberger. I hope you enjoy. Hello, who do we get to know today?
Hi, my name is Tanja Spielberger.
Hello, Tanja. It's very nice to meet you. What would you say? Who is Tanja and what do you do?
Well, I am a triathlete, basically a normal hobby triathlete, amateur triathlete who loves triathlon, but who step by step got from doing a sprint triathlon 12 years ago into doing an Ironman, into going to Hawaii, and now basically living my dream of extreme triathlon and trying to become the first woman to finish the XTri Series in 4.5 weeks.
That sounds very exciting, but let's take it step by step like you did in your career. Tell me, how did you start doing triathlon in the first place?
That's a bit of a longer story. So I played tennis for 18 years. I did horseback riding. I played football, did a bit of handball, athletics, everything in my childhood. And I was in a training camp, in a tennis training camp. And my boyfriend at that time was with me and also my parents. My parents were at the same hotel going on road bike trips. And well, my boyfriend got bored after a few days, but just watching me playing tennis and decided to go on a bike trip with them, came back totally amazed by cycling. And I was like, shit, because I hated cycling at that time. But he convinced me to at least go on a bike ride once with him to try it out. So I borrowed the bike of my mom, which was way too small, super heavy, old one, but it was so much fun. So I came back and said, well, okay, that's actually a pretty cool sport, but just cycling didn't convince me. So I said to my boyfriend, okay, well, let's sign up for a sprint triathlon. We're both sporty. So 500 meters of swimming, 20 kilometers cycling, 5 running. We should be able to do that. So we signed up for one and I loved it. So I came back from that race, signed up immediately for another sprint distance the week afterwards. And then decided that I probably found my sport, which I really like. Got a coach immediately and decided to take it from there.
Yeah, and obviously just sprint triathlon wasn't enough for you. How did you then decide to get into Ironman distances?
So when I started, I never thought about doing an Ironman. Actually, I bought my first road bike in 2014 and said to my dad, basically my dad said to me, you don't need to buy an expensive one because you won't do an Ironman anyway, right? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do an Ironman. Then I did an Olympic distance in 2013, did a middle distance in 2015, and then said, well, I mean, you can run 21 kilometers in the end. Running 42 isn't that much more anymore. Okay, so let's sign up for an Ironman. And then did my first one in 2016. And somehow got addicted because already as a child, I was never a sprinter. So at the 50-meter, 100-meter sprints, I was always comparably bad. But when it was about the 12-minute runs, the 5-kilometer runs, that was where I was good. And the same happened somehow in triathlon, that I enjoyed long distance, even though it was much more pain. But I enjoyed it much more than the shorter ones.
And you also seem to be pretty good at it because if I know correctly, you actually qualified and raced in Kona. Is that correct?
That is correct. So coming back in 2016 from my first Ironman at Challenge Roth, I somehow had the dream, okay, going to Kona once. No, every triathlete, even people that don't know triathlon, they know Kona. So I took that dream to qualify, and somehow in 2021 at the Ironman Hamburg, I could achieve it.
And what was it like to experience Kona? Not just racing, but going there, the atmosphere, being surrounded by professionals. What was it like?
Yeah, it was a crazy and amazing experience because not just because it was Hawaii, but it was somehow fulfilling a dream that you've built for 5 years, and finally achieving it, finally going there, finally standing at the pier together with the pros for the swim in the morning, seeing all these fit people around, knowing you belong to the best amateur athletes of the world, was a crazy feeling. I remember at the opening ceremony, we were all crying. So my family and I, we were all crying tears, tears of joy, because it was super emotional but not the race itself, but more the atmosphere around the island.
Yeah, I believe that must have been an amazing experience. Going forward now, Ironman isn't the craziest thing you've done in your career because you already mentioned something in the beginning that you
Yeah.
also do XTris. Can you explain what XTri actually is and how you got into that?
So extreme triathlon basically is Ironman distance. So the distance is the same, but conditions are a bit harder. So usually the swim is either cold. So for example, in the Czech Republic and in the Winterman, the water was around 12 degrees Celsius. It's usually tough waters, so tough seas, or you have currents or something like that. In the Czech and in Spain, for example, we swam completely by night, so in the dark. On the bike, you usually have a lot of mountains. So the last one I did in Italy was roughly 4,100 meters of elevation gain on the bike. So you're going through mountain passes, and the run is also usually pretty hilly. So usually you have the finish line on top of the mountain. So in Italy, it was also 2,200 meters of elevation gain on the run. It's much on trail, and even included some like more or less rock climbing in Italy. And what I think is really special about extreme triathlon is you need a support team. So you don't have a nutrition by the organizer. You don't have support by the organizer. You need your own team who need to follow you through the race. And usually, especially when it gets very alpine, when it gets pretty tough on the run, on the last 10 kilometers or something, somebody needs to run with you to support you and be at your side. And that makes it really special for me because you somehow experience it differently together with your family, with your friends, with your support team, and not just on your own. So that's
Yeah.
extreme triathlon. And I basically got into it because, so I did Ironman Hawaii, but actually the year before, I didn't think I would qualify in Hamburg. So I already made up a plan, okay, I need to do something special as an alternative. And I knew about the Austria Extreme Triathlon because a friend of mine had done it before. So I had that idea in mind of doing that one instead of Hawaii, because I thought I wouldn't qualify anyway. Then I qualified, but already had the plan fixed somehow in my head. So I decided, okay, let's do both. So I did 2022. In June, I did the Austria Extreme, and in October, then Hawaii. And somehow at Austria Extreme, so the atmosphere and extreme triathlon really caught me because it's something completely different. You can't compare it to Ironman races. And I found that this is much more my world, so to say, with smaller races. So we were 100 people roughly in Austria. Everyone helps each other. So athletes help each other. Other support teams will help you. It's much more friendly, even though you compete, but it's much more friendly between the athletes. And at the same time, Ironman was deciding to change the World Championship scheme to dividing it to Nice and Kona, which in my view made it much easier for women to qualify. So I know people that have qualified with 15 hours in my age group for Kona. So I decided, well, to be honest, that's not my world. That's not what I'm competing for. Let's rather go for the extreme triathlon races.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds extreme from what you described. I wanted to ask you why you got into this, or what keeps you going back for these extreme triathlon races. Is it the pursuit of these really extreme challenges to see how far you can go, how much you can suffer basically, or what keeps you coming back to these races?
To be honest, I think during the Ironmans, I suffered more than during the extreme triathlons. So I found the longer it is, the better I get. And the more extreme the conditions are, the better I get compared to others. So for example, I can cope really well with the cold. So even though it's 0 degrees on the bike, you will see me with short, because that's my temperature. I don't really like the heat. So on the one hand, I like more the atmosphere. The atmosphere gave me much more emotions and attraction for doing these races. And on the other hand, I found actually I'm much better. I'm much better in these extreme conditions than I am compared to other people on the normal Ironmans. And yeah, that's how I found my passion in there.
That's very interesting. And obviously, we know a lot about how people train for normal Ironmans, let's say.
Yeah.
So could you maybe describe a bit how your training looks for these extreme races?
It's actually not that different. So it's not that different. I mean, I'm really good with the code, so I don't train that specifically. I know people who do extreme triathlon who specifically train it because they have problems with it. I don't do that. I try to include much more mountain runs. So trail runs, mountain runs, also include trail running races into the season to get better on the hills and to also get a feeling of which descent or elevation you can still run, where it's better to walk, get used to using the poles, things like that. So we include that, and we include a bit more bike sessions with mountains. So where you cycle at a lower frequency, 50, 60 rounds per minute, to get used to those long climbs and long bike rides. But other than that, it's not really different. So still my longest bike runs are maybe 4 to 5 hours, not really much longer on the training. And also the runs are not that much longer.
Yeah, so basically just adapting to the terrain and doing race specific trainings.
Exactly. And well, obviously also training to run with the pack, training to run because you usually also have security gear that you need to take with you. So minimum requirements, train to run with that. Yeah.
Not very complicated. So if
Nope.
anybody wants to try this extreme triathlons, training is not that much different. So they are very well encouraged to do it and try it.
Absolutely. And it would be great to see especially more women in extreme triathlons.
Yeah, exactly. And in triathlons in general, because I think there is still a lot more men competing than women.
True.
I think you mentioned it at the beginning of our talk, but you said that you have some specific goal now that you're trying to achieve. Can you maybe talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so there is it's called XTri Series. It's a series of 5 extreme triathlon races. The Austria Extreme, Winterman Extreme in the Czech Republic, the Pyrenees Extreme in Spain, the Stone in Italy, and the Neisner Extreme in South Africa. And if you compete all those 5 races within 3 years, you can call yourself a finisher of the XTri Series. And the cool thing is that every race you get a medal, which is like a triangle. And all those 5 medals, in the end, they will fit together in a trophy that you will get at your last race. And you get into the Hall of Fame on the website and can call yourself XTri Series finisher. And when I raced Austria and found my passion for extreme triathlon, so I Googled the series and found, at that time, 7 people had completed it and all were men. So I said, okay, we need to change that. And I want to be the first woman to finish it. And at the last race, someone came to me and told me, well, Tanja, I think you're going to have the fastest time overall. So we added a goal on top to say, okay, finish it, be the first woman, and have the fastest overall time of all 5 races of all series finishes.
That sounds amazing. And what is then left on the path to achieving those goals?
So basically, it's only 1 race left. So I've already done 4. Have 4 medals at home. And it's the last one, which is the Neisner Extreme, 2nd of November. So 4.5 weeks to go.
That's amazing. And obviously people are going to want to follow you and cheer you on and everything. And I'm also going to keep my fingers crossed. So 2nd of November, nobody forget, check in on Tanja and see how she goes. And then don't forget to congratulate her.
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, obviously, talking with you, you've done some amazing things and finished some amazing races. So I'm wondering, what has, in your opinion, been your biggest success so far?
That is an interesting question. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said qualifying for the Ironman Hawaii. That has changed. I think really the biggest success is I'm doing triathlon now for 11 and a half, 12 years. I've never had any serious injuries. I think that's probably one of the biggest successes. So, and probably also the factor of success that basically over 12 years, I could continue training with only minor interruptions, getting better every year by that, by this continuity. And so I hope my biggest success is coming in 4.5 weeks with finishing the XTri Series. which for me would also be showing to myself that hard work pays off. And that even though people call you sometimes crazy in the beginning or don't really believe in your dream and can't understand why you stick so hard to your training plan, that you judge a couple of people also wrong.
Yeah, that's a very nice point, a very nice message. And I think that the most important thing is that you believe in yourself and that you keep going and keep striving for the goal that you set for yourself.
Yeah, and I think probably also one of the biggest successes is doing it 12 years, following strict training length, but still having a lot of fun at it and still doing it because of fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue. I'm wondering, how do you manage to keep this balance? So how do you keep progressing in training and still having fun for such a long time?
To be honest, for me, it was never hard because when I somehow got into triathlon, I really found that is my sport. And I just really love it. I love running, I love cycling, I love swimming, I love being outdoors. I think what kept the fun also up is that I found a lot of good friends, good people to do the sport with. And that makes also triathlon for me such a cool sport that you meet so many people from around the world, like the two of us also now, with very different backgrounds, different ages, but you all have something in common. And that makes a lot of the fun for me. It's really the people.
Yeah, that's a very nice answer. And I'm also very glad that we got to meet and chat because I think that your story is very inspiring. And I hope that at least some of the listeners are going to take on their own triathlon journey, whatever that means for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only recommend it. Once you start, you get addicted easily.
Yeah, I can also commit to that. So you mentioned that you've done so many crazy races and inevitably you had some tough patches, let's say, and some hard times. And I'm wondering what keeps you going when the things get hard for you?
Yeah, I had a couple of health issues, private stuff that sometimes throws you back. But then I always thought, well, I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for me. And somehow triathlon also helped me overcoming these times. The training to free up your mind, to free your head, and also the fun you get out of it. So yeah, triathlon showed me that it's also a good way to cope with challenges, and that even though a run might be bad or a couple of weeks of training might be bad, there is still progress if you continue doing it. If you just stick to it, continue doing it, and that's probably true for a lot of things in life as well. Even though there might be bad times, bad runs, bad bike rides. So, for example, also now a couple of weeks ago, I really struggled with my swim. So I didn't know what was going on, but I kept going, looked for, okay, what can I change, continued, and it got better again. And I think that mindset helps in a lot of challenges in life as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that is a nice message. And I'm wondering, because you said that you also work, so you're balancing training and working. Can you tell me maybe what your work is and how do you manage to balance it with training?
Yeah, so I already work for 14 years now in a large reinsurance company in Germany. Started on the operational side, so pricing and challenging risks, especially on the marine side, so everything that is related to ships and the logistics sector. And now I'm working more on the risk management side, a bit more internal. So it's basically desk work. So my legs and arms, they can relax while I'm working. What really helps is that I have pretty flexible times. So I have my 37, 38 hours a week to work, but I can start a day on a day at 9. I can start a day at 7, however I prefer. I can extend lunch breaks to 2 hours. So what I usually do is I go on a training in the morning because one, that really helps me to kick off the day. Breakfast is much better when you already had a session in. And also nothing can come in between in the morning. So no meetings, no whatever can come in between in the morning. So I do a session in the morning. And then I also work 3 days, roughly a week from home, which also helps to save time. And when I do that, I usually go over lunch for a short run or a short session, especially because I don't like training that much in the evening. I like it more during the day. And also it helps me free my mind. So when I work the entire morning, then go out, switch off your head, go for a run, go for a session, continue working. Yeah, and that works quite well for me. But obviously a lot of vacation days and things like that, they have to be sacrificed, but it's a nice sacrifice for training camps, for races, things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really like your answer because you're just like me. I also wake up early, do my first or even first and second training sessions before work.
Yeah.
And I also don't like training in the evening. So we're a perfect match, it seems.
Too bad you're living too far away, so we could go for a run in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering something else now. Did you maybe ever consider going professional as a triathlete?
I did. I did in 2018. I thought about it because there was also a program at work where basically money was offered that you leave the company because they had to do cost savings. And at that time, I thought about it. At the same time, at that time, I had a bit on the private side, a few challenges going on. So I didn't want to take on the risk of doing it. I was already 28 years old at that time, which is, I mean, not old, but for becoming professional, bit old. But mostly I decided not to do it because I thought, okay, I have so much fun in doing it. I can pick and choose the races how I like them. And I always feared if I go professional and just do triathlon, that I lose the fun of doing it. And that's why I decided not to do so.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. And I think that many people want to become professionals, so just they can call themselves professional.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they don't take into account all the things that come with it. So I think that your approach is very smart and obviously it's working for you. So why change it?
Exactly. And that's exactly what you said. I mean, I said, if I want to be a professional, I want to be a professional because I can really compete at a top level. And I thought, okay, I might be good and maybe get into the top 10, but probably with 28 years, I wouldn't really make it to the top. And that's not what I would have considered professional. And professional also means for me, you're doing that really 100%. And I couldn't see myself there.
Yeah, that's very nice and a very smart approach. If we take a bit of a shift to a bit more general and fun questions, I'm wondering what is one thing that you wanted to do for a long time but just haven't done it yet?
Oof, I've never thought about that. Good question. Actually, there is nothing, to be honest, because everything that I wanted to do or really wanted to do, I always try to somehow do it at a certain point. No, I can't really think of anything at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is the best answer to this question because doing all the things that you want to do, obviously nothing crazy or
yeah,
but I think that is the best way to live a life with no
yeah.
regrets.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering which music gets you pumped up the most?
I hear a mix of everything. So I really love 80s, 90s. I hear a lot of Backstreet Boys, especially during trainings. But usually I really put on Spotify and just go for a mix of everything. Mix that people have done, put together, and it contains everything. So I don't have that one music direction that I always go for.
Okay, interesting answer. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
That is an easy one. That is Kaiserschmarrn, which is a traditional Bavarian Austrian food, sweet stuff. And I couldn't live without it.
Okay, so is that also your guilty pleasure?
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
That was an easy question then. And I'm wondering next, what is one thing that annoys you or makes you angry?
Well, if my dog doesn't listen to me the way she should, especially when you see that she knows exactly what you want from her, but she still does whatever she wants. And well, if I just had it last Friday, internet outage, it was raining outside. I wanted to go on a Swift ride, nothing worked. But also people that can't, how do you say that best? That are not happy if others have success. So, and that is something I experienced in extreme triathlon. They're really all athletes are happy for each other. Even though you might get in front of them. But that really annoys me if people also don't see the work that lies behind why you can compete at such a level.
Yeah, that's a very nice answer, or all the answers that you mentioned. And I agree with them all. Besides triathlon, what else do you do to relax and just enjoy life?
Mostly spending time with my dog. So, I mean, she's also part of my triathlon training. She goes running with me quite a lot. But I really enjoy just going on walks with her, training her in different things, doing a bit of dog sport with her. So that really calms me down to spend time with her and don't think about triathlon.
Okay, that's nice. And you mentioned that you train with her and teach her a lot of things. What is
Yeah.
the craziest thing that she can do?
The craziest, the most funny one is probably that she can do peng. Like when you shoot at her, like if you would shoot with a weapon, she can lay down as she would be dead.
Do you maybe have a video of that? Because that would be interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I can look one up. Pretty sure I have one.
Okay, that's great. And if you send it to me before I take on this video, I'm gonna put it in the show notes.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
others are
Yeah.
gonna have fun with it as well. Besides being the first woman and the fastest person to finish the XTri series, what is one thing that you want to achieve in life?
Mm, building a family. Building a family, having a nice house. Um, yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, that's a very nice, a very simple answer. But obviously, you don't need that much more. You have a
Yeah.
steady job, something that makes you happy, or more things that
Yeah.
make you happy. Just settle down and live life in peace.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say no to more dogs, but let's see.
If I ask a bit of a different question now, if you could be a professional athlete in one other sport, not that is not triathlon, which sport would you choose?
Huh. That is a tricky one. Um, Good question. Um, Probably surfing because I'm terrible in surfing and skateboarding and everything that is related to somehow keeping your balance on something. Um, and I think it also has a spirit of freedom when you ride the waves, probably. So yeah, I think it would be surfing.
That's interesting. Did you at least try surfing when you went to Hawaii?
No, well, yeah, I mean on a small like wakeboard thing. But yeah, no way.
Okay, that's interesting. I think that says enough, so we're gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is a nice place to slowly steer this conversation towards the end. And at the end, I let my guest leave a question for the next guest that is coming on the show. My previous guest was Megan Foley. She's a
Mhm.
professional triathlete and a dietitian from the US. And she wants to know, what is one memory that you have that you would like to revisit and why?
Hmm. It's probably the feeling of crossing the finish line of my last race, which was in Italy. Um, because it was the toughest one I've done so far. And I could do it with all my best, or mostly all my best friends. So they were three of my best friends were running with me the last kilometers, and we really crossed the finish line arm in arm, all the four together, in first place with course record on a day that was super tough in between. Where on the bike I was, to be honest, not sure if I would finish that day. And then doing it, in a way that I would have not expected before. On a snow field because they were snowing so much that they even still had snow in June. Um, and that was an amazing feeling, and it would be really nice. I mean, it was painful, but it was overwhelming, and it was a feeling that would be nice to live it again.
Yes, I can only imagine. And I hope that you will get an even better experience in November this year, which sparkled another question in my mind. Do you feel any pressure going into this next race? Maybe either from finishing or from getting a result for being the fastest person that completed the series, or maybe from some other reason that I don't know about.
No, to be honest, not. Obviously, I mean, I've won the last 4 races, so somehow you feel okay. Well, would be pretty cool to win the 5th one as well. No, did a course record on 3 of them, so obviously it would be nice to do another one. But to be honest, no, because I'm pretty confident with the form that I have at the moment that finishing should be doable. Should, if nothing out of the ordinary comes in between, which you never know, but should be doable. And everything that comes on top is like the cherry on top that would make it even better. But no, to be honest, I don't feel pressure. Because also I know that my time advantage that I have to becoming the fastest one is quite good. So yeah, no, it's really about the fun, and it's a bit similar to when I went to Hawaii. When I went to Hawaii, I said actually I don't care about the result, because being in Hawaii is basically the benefit and the bonus I get for all the work I've done before, and it's and the same goes also for South Africa now. It's going there, doing the 5th race, obviously wanting to finish, wanting to have a good performance. But it's basically rounding up the whole journey. And this is somehow the bonus for the work you've done. And coming with a nice vacation afterwards.
Yeah, I love it. I love the answer. I love the message. And I think this is a perfect way to end this talk. But
Yeah.
I can't let you go just yet, because you have to leave the question for the next guest on the show.
What is an advice that you would give to a first timer doing a triathlon?
Okay, that's interesting. And I'm looking forward to hearing the answer.
Me too.
It was really awesome talking to you, Tanja. It was a pleasure to meet you. It was a pleasure to get to know you, your story. And I hope that you inspired, like we talked about previously, people to try the extreme triathlon, maybe some other women to get into triathlon, even if not the extreme version of it. And I'm wondering if people want to follow you, maybe ask you a question, where can they find you?
So always happy to answer any questions anyone might have, be it on extreme triathlon or just getting into triathlon or running with dog or whatever. Yeah, so you can find me on the social media, obviously on Instagram. You can find me also on Strava if you're interested in how I'm training, what I'm training. I have a web page as well, and yeah, just reach out.
Okay, that's great. I'm gonna put all the links into the show notes, so
Super.
they will have no trouble finding you. But like I said, thank you for coming on the show, and I wish you all the best, first in South Africa and then in the future of your career.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for the invitation. It was a super nice chat.